Hey there, boys and girls of the YouTube world. Guess what's back? The 59 Plymouth Suburban Custom wagon. And I got the Coopersdown valve train bandit himself to come get this thing dialed in. So hold on tight. So I think Chelsea is what we have affectionately named this thing. It's Christine's thick sister. Carson gave her a quick rinse down, and gosh dang it, she just shines like a Dolly Parton diamond. Look at that. Would you just look at it? You could see yourself in there. Anywho, stuck some new tires on it. White lines out, you know, unsuspecting and such. Didn't find the right antenna. Look at this. He put some spit shine into the interiors even. That seat looks good. Never mind that part, but even the steering column, steering wheel, steering shifter linkages, she cleaned up right nicely. Not bad at all. New door panel on the inside too. New to this car. We're gonna fix the Flathead 6. I know everybody wanted Hemis and LS's and Polys and 340s, and you guys listed a lot of stuff. Oh, slant 6s. Guys were offering slant 6s up on it. New door. The trim match is better. Color, not so much. You guys been requesting it, so we brought Chelsea back. We got some new valves and some other pieces. I guess we got a rear end out of a C body, something or other. Not a Mopar guy. Gonna put that in the back so we can get some attainable brakes. We're not worried about front brakes, but then we'll get a little bit better gear ratio in the back or something. I don't know, something about nodular 648, 549, potato 6 1/4. Anyway, we got a rear diff for it, and we got some valves and some gaskets. I didn't bring a battery though. Maybe some new spark plugs, points, cap, rotor wires, maybe a new flexi hose from the local Napa store, and a fuel line. Remember that thing? Tink, tink, tink. Yeah. Hopefully he soaked these so we can just tap them all down now. Remember what happened there? Oh my. Good times, good times. You guys really ripped me apart there. Let's get after it. want to adjust these is so that the valve is all the way down when you adjust them. So that you're going to have to turn the crankshaft. Might be able to do several at a time. A lot of these we screwed way in because we didn't know what we were doing. Let's be honest here. Still don't know what we're doing. We gonna learn today though. So I'm gonna turn that over until the opposite valve, what I would want to adjust, is coming up. That way I know that this is on the base of the camshaft. You want just a little resistance when you slide that through there. So actually I think I got that one pretty good. Nope, it's too much. You don't have to turn it very much and it makes a big change. Well, yeah, because that was the exhaust that we did. So let's put that to 12 thou. Oh, too many Colorado Kool-Aids last night. There you have it. That's how you adjust valves. Basically, you get your feeler gauge, make sure that the lifter is at the bottom of the lobe of the camshaft, slide your feeler gauge in there, and adjust that adjustment, screw, nut, bolt, whatever you got, in or out, so you got just a little bit of resistance. Always make sure that it's at the bottom of the camshaft. Easiest way that I could tell to do that is if this valve is open, then that valve is closed, and you always want to do it on a closed valve. So never are two valves in a cylinder going to be open at the same time. The easy way to tell intakes between exhausts is the intake is the large valve and the exhaust is the small valve. And the way that I remember that is all that pressure, that piston's pushing air out, so you need a smaller hole. So that's the exhaust, where the intake, it's getting pulled in by vacuum, which is a lot lower, and or gravity. So you've got a bigger valve for the intakes. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So since we fast forwarded through the valve removal and installation, because that was a complete disaster, mainly due to so many valves being stuck, we had to use a lot of heat, hammers, penetrating oil, pry bars, whatnot. But here's your valve. This is actually an exhaust valve. And you see how it's got those little grooves down there at the bottom? And then you got these little keepers. And that keeper's got a taper to it. And then there's a washer above that. And so what you do to retain these is you take and use this big C-clamp here. It's designed for valve tool removal. You get that in there, and on top of the valve, usually you do it when the valve is closed, and then you squeeze down like that, and you can see how it compresses it. That compresses the spring, and then it'll push the washer up with the spring. And that'll expose these two keepers. And in theory, they would just fall off, but sometimes you got to do some tapping and prying. But these keepers are tapered, and they sit in those two grooves on the bottom of the valve, like so, with the smaller end of that angle facing up, and that goes into that washer, and the tension of the spring is what retains that all together. So you need that compressor to remove it. So there you have it. How to remove the valves on a flathead. You gotta have this tool. We found that out. You can't have the tool that just sneaks in the side. You gotta have this big tool. Learned that the hard way. Got our new gaskets on our side covers all cleaned up as well. Cleaned up in the valve train area. New gasket on the bolt. Slam her back together. Torque them down here with the old CTs. Alright. I think we'll clean up this surface. Get ready for the manifold. I think we'll wait to put that on until it's in the car. Same with the head gasket. And then we'll do a timing chain. Let's do the timing chain now. Looks like in order to get the timing cover off to get at the timing chain, we're going to have to pull the crank pulley, the generator, and the water pump. Sweet. Well, there's the timing chain. How's it look? Not bad at all. Tech tip of the day. Don't sound like an idiot. Chains don't stretch. They wear. Before we rip into it, I was going to try to line the dots up, which almost looks like they are already. So provided we have that dot lined up and we put it back together, with the other dot, we should be the same way it always was. I don't really like the way that engages with that gear, but let's see if we'll go back on. Well, that's interesting. Maybe that's why it was parked. There's a keyway on this cam gear, and it's not lining up with the keyway on the crankshaft. I guess we'll find out if everything is all sheared in there, or it looks like the crank's been turning inside the gear. We'll know. This might be interesting. At a minimum, on that shear, the timing should have been off significantly. I don't know if that's a keyway. If it is, it looks like it's... I think we're wrong. Let's just slam it together, see what happens. There we go. That chain is real tight. Just the way we like them. I think we're going to look up the torque spec on that. Not much for torquing things, but it seems important. And we don't want to have to take that apart again. Scratch the torque value. Couldn't find anything on the interwebs. So they're 5/16 volts, so we'll just give it a good snug in. Call it good. Click. 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 Good enough for who it's for. Spun it over. Seems like the timing is where it needs to be as far as the valve train. Got both of our mating surfaces cleaned up. What does that say? Somebody's name is stamped in there. Anywho. And also it says floating down here. I don't know what's floating. It's a boat anchor, if you ask me. Put a new seal in there too. Yeah, we're doing it upright. Roll my. Yeah, it's not going to have any heating issues. We're good. I'm sure that water pump's just fine too. I think that wraps up the timing chain, timing cover, front main seal portion. I think we'll lift it up, drop the oil pan, clean the sludge out of there since we're this far, reseal that up. Maybe get crazy, put a rear main seal in. Probably not. It's rope, so it's going to leak anyway. Look at all that debris that came out of cleaning off the cover, but a lot of that came out of the water pump, so I'm sure that's fine. Probably drain the oil out of this thing first. Drain plug stripped out, so we'll fix that. Oh my goodness, and it's tight. Wow. No way I didn't forget at least one. Oh. That's what non-detergent oil does. Oh man. That's how deep that is. It's a solid 1.5 inches. Oh, sludge. Wow. Look at that. That's some good honey right there. Let's get that cleaned up. Got our oil pan all cleaned up. You can see just how deep that sludge was in there. It was like 1.5 inches of sludge in there, and it was just rock solid down by the drain plug. So now we got just standard gaskets that go around the edge here, and these big wide pieces of cork that go on the side here. They got these retainers. I don't know if they got to be trimmed to length or not, but stick those in, ready to slide it back on. The oil pickup actually looks pretty good. So we got our pan gasket set in place. A little right stuff in the corners. And I noticed that this cork sits way higher than the pan itself. So I looked it up on the old interwebs, and the P14 1524 Mopar website says don't trim that off. You leave it long. And it kind of makes a triangle shape between these two gaskets, because this rail gasket has to sit on top of that cork gasket. So then you just use some longer bolts to get it started and to keep that in place. See what happens. It's gonna leak for sure. Marking its territory, right, Duff? This should be fun. Got the old oil pan slammed back on. Could have cleaned up the outside, but it's not a show car, and ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So we did pull it out and left the transmission in place and the hood in place, but it was tight up here. So we left the transmission in the car, but due to the length of the input shaft, that looks like it could just as well go through the radiator and have a crank hooked up to start the car. I think I'm gonna pull that out and hook it up to the engine, because that one bolt was a real son of a gun. And we'll try to drop her down in there. We might have to take the hood off when we put them together to get that snuck in there, but I think it'll be easier that way. Because yeah, we had to slide that thing ahead a long ways before that came disengaged. There we go, clean her all up. Ready for Barrett Jackson. Cut the transfusion, hooked up to the bell smousing, and ready to whammy her into place. So this should be fun. I'm sure it'll just drop right in. Never fails. Wish me luck. That is a beast of a 3-speed overdrive. Yowza. One other thing to note about these overdrives, I forget what it is, like a R10, something like that they call them. They got 2 oil reservoirs. They got the main transmission and your overdrive unit. So you got 2 plugs there, 2 plugs there. One to fill, one to drain. So if you got a leak, make sure you're checking both of them. Or if you're ever checking, check them both. Don't just check that one, because your overdrive could be running dry. I didn't learn that the hard way for once. Ready to slide in, just waiting on some help. Got some help. Got her stabbed in. It was tight. Real tight. I got the hood ratchet strapped to the back of the car. Give us a little bit of clearance.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Tech tip of the day. Just if it had a rough rack, that would have made it a lot easier, but we don't have that option. And if you're ever pulling one of these Mopars out, don't remove the engine mounts there. There's a bolt from the bottom. Probably would have saved us from putting a hole in that heater box. Whoopsies. I think I'll crawl underneath, hook up the shift linkage and speedo cable, clutch, drive shaft, all that good stuff. Oh, overdrive, tranny mounts, finish up these engine mounts, and then we get to do the fun stuff. Hooking the wiring back up, putting the intake and exhaust back on the head, and so on and so forth. Fan, radiator. Hopefully we can get pretty close yet tonight. Just got done eating supper, so I'm ready for a nappy nap. But we're gonna bust some hump, try to power through, so we don't have this thing sitting here forever. That way we can put an order in for some parts tomorrow, and maybe they'll show up later yet. Ah, it's Christmas. Never mind. We won't see parts till ever. Here we go. Well, I fingered as cruddy as the oil was in the engine. Transmission was probably about the same. So I pulled the rear plug out, and it kind of drained out when we were setting it in because the angle was in. So I knew there was oil in the back, but I pulled out the front plug, and you can see it'd be oily there, like this one. If oil came out, guess what? None came out. So watch this. I bet this is gonna be good. Oh yeah. It's always the best when you gotta coax the oil out. She's been well maintained. Blech. That is some good stuff. That's definitely not synthetic. We'll just probably leave that drain for like a month. Good news is if you get one of these big hog pans, you can crack them both open and let them drain. Should we do some dredging in this one too? Oh yeah. Oh, that's a nice big blob there. Oofta. Yeah, old Chelsea, she went through the McDonald's drive-thru a few too many times. You. Ugh. Let me spray some brake cleaner in there. This car is like going for the world record on brake cleaner that I've ever run through a car. Hooking these here wires up right here, generating a little excitement. Getting close, but not really. What's this crap? Napa and you gotta put the frickin' ends on the plug wires? God, these guys could screw up a wet dream. Well, since we got these fancy cut-to-fit spark plug wires, guess I'll show you guys how I like to do that. I don't like to do it, but I'll show you how I do it. First thing you do is figure out which length of wire you need. So we already got number 1 done here. I practiced that before I showed you guys. 15, 36, 24 is firing order in this. So this is 1. Then we got number 5. So that would be the second longest wire pairs. So that would be this one here. So we'll stick that on the plug. Run it through our loom about how we want to. I kind of like them to sit a little bit high on these 6 cylinders. I like the way they look on a flathead. And then we run her down to the distributor. And then you kind of put your finger down there with about how long you need it to be. And then you hold your finger there. And that's where we're going to cut it off. Of course, I don't have a cutting tool here. Take our side cutter, cut it to the length we need. And then what we're going to want to do is take your wire stripper and you cut it off about the same length where they leave that. See, it's got that inner core in there. So you line those two up, put your finger there. Then I usually go to the 14 gauge sizing on my, how convenient, it's a Napa stripper. And then you just slides right off like that. Then what I like to do is take your spray away, glass cleaner, whatever you got. Put a little bit of that on the wire. Always remember to put the boot on first. And what that glass cleaner does, or whatever you choose to use, is basically just a lubricant. It slides a lot easier. And then it dries up. Doesn't hurt the wire itself. And you take your end here. That's the end that clips into the coil or on the spark plug. Fold that core over. And then I like to clamp that opening right over the top of, so that the wire's on the back side there. And then they make these crimpers just for this. A lot of the cheap wire crimpers have it too, but this is specifically for it. And then you put the back side in that round area, and then those 2 tabs in the other area. Get it lined up. And just squeeze her shut. There you go. Custom made plug wires. You slide that down. Easy peasy, a lemon squeezy. 4 more and a coil wire to go. Let's see what kind of oil filter this thing's got. These canister types, they don't really do much anyway, but since we cleaned all the sludge out of the pan, we might as well at least try to give it a son of a biscuit. This thing's probably never been changed. Am I doing something wrong? Let me get a hammer. That's what we need. Right, Duff? What are we going to find in here? Oh, look at that. It's got a cute little handle like your lunch pail. Oh, this new crappy Wix doesn't have a handle. Oh, it's got a little tanger you can pry up to get it out of there, I suppose. Let's just set that in the dirt. Oh, hey, look. A new gasket. Looks like there's some goodness still in there. Oh yeah. It would probably be best to remove that, clean the sludge out, but I already have the lines hooked up, so we're committed. I got the gloves on because I'm sure this causes cancer, whatever it is. Ew. Yeah, we should probably take that off. Fine. Since we had the oil pan off, I guess, why not? Old Chelsea, she had a high cholesterol diet. Typical Mopar, it's got a square nut on the backside here and a flat screw on the front, so cutting edge technology for 1959. The reason I don't really care for these canister types is they don't do anything, because only like 20 or maybe 30% of the oil actually goes through them. Then it's just gravity fed. It's not a full pressure system, I don't think. Well, they don't filter all the oil that goes through. But I'm sure everybody's going to tell me I'm wrong, because I usually am. Whatever. There's a reason they went to away from these. Now, oil bath air cleaners, I'll fight you on that argument. Those things are good. You can see there's about a cup of oil in there that won't even run out because there's so much sludge. Real good. Oh yeah. Oh, that's the good stuff. It's like McDonald's, you gotta hold your Blizzard upside down and see just how thick it is. Bite. Chelsea, she is thick. This is literally what was in the oil pan, but about 1,400 times more of it. This is why I never change oil on anything before I start it, because this is the good stuff. This is like that solid breakfast that Grandma gives you. You know, bacon and sausage, French toast, omelets, ham. Really sticks with you throughout the day. Tore my glove. OJ would be disappointed. Oh, I gotta get this gasket off there. Duff, what are you licking beer and used oil for? Always save your old beer boxes. They make good pads for scraping gaskets onto. Get right in there. Tell me how good of a job I'm doing. You're so helpful, you know that? A lot of people think that you're just in the videos for your good looks, but you're super handy. I mean, you pretty much inspect everything, especially before I go in and you make sure there's no dangerous critters in there or rodents. Yeah, always stretch out. He reminds you to stretch out a lot too. Good enough for the girls I go with, right, Duff? He's over there. Got his paws crossed in approval. And just for luck, let's put some Rizzolene engine oil treatment with zinc. I absolutely despise these old style wire hose clamps, so this is a good way to get them off. We'll leave it long. I always shorten it up if we need to. There we go. Tech tip of the day. Get the right size hose clamp. I don't have something that's stretched out or has a tail on it that long. If you need to in a pinch, cut the tail off at least. But spend a couple bucks on hose clamps and get the good ones. You'll thank yourself later when you got to take it apart. And the other thing with hose clamps is don't put them like up here obnoxious and facing you, like, and then don't ever put them so that the next guy can never take it apart. I hate that. If you're working on your buddy's car and you really want to piss him off, then it's okay. And then just crank the snot out of it too. But usually I like to spend a little bit of time and get them so that they're not super obnoxious. Like this one right here, I'll face it just like that. So it's easy to get at from the top. But it's also not super unsightly. We got the hex head hidden back there. Same thing on the front up here. That one is getting right at you in the face, so we'll tuck that one right up in here so the hex is hidden from the back, but still easy enough to get to. I like to use a nut driver. Seems like it gets them tight enough. It's way better than a flat screwdriver, but it doesn't quite tighten them up as much as, say, a 1/4-inch ratchet and socket. Constant tension clamps, like the new ones in the late models, I like those a lot too. They look clean, and they're way better than these for clamping down. But they're kind of hard to acquire, unless you just save used ones. I don't really like this hose routing. We'll have to look at the pictures later from removing the engine out that was routed. That wraps up our heater hose installation. I guarantee that heater core leaks because they always do. We could replace that hose, but it wasn't on the list. At least it's not brittle. See? Sounds good. Doesn't sound like that fuel hose did that sounded like this. I think we need to go to the radiator shop or the vape shop. Whew, sounds chunky. I'm sure it's fine. Let's run some water. That'll clean it right up. Redneck radiator flush coming up. Shouldn't it be coming out the bottom? But I did notice that the overflow neck is snapped off, so oh hey, look, there it is. Yeah, it'll be fine. I'm just gonna drink a beer and let that water run through there. Yeah, that battery cable's way too long, but that's what I got. Whoa! Don't hook that up. Oopsies. Well, I think we'll get the loser, nobody here to crank it over for me button, because we don't have any keys. And still don't have any friends. We'll crank it over for a bit, see if we can't get some oil moving around. I suppose I could crack one of those open, see if we're getting any oil. And then we could probably give it some fuel, see if it lights off. I don't have any radiator hoses yet because, of course, they didn't have any on hand. And said owner of said car didn't think to bring those because he thought they would be fine, I guess. I don't know. It'll be fine to run it a little while. And we got to work on Chelsea's rear end. Got to firm that thing up a bit. So, yeah, let's pull that off. Just kidding. It could stay on. Not like it's going to fire up with underneath fuel. We're just going to try to get some oil to the places, the things that need oil and such. Camshafts, crankshafts, lifters. Sounds like it's got compression. That's a first. I guess we could take the plugs out and check, but you know we're not gonna. Give that starter a little break. I'm gonna go get some fuel. Turn it over a little bit more. Between fires and pressure washing and rust You know, Interstate Battery's looking pretty tough. Still looking for a battery sponsor. Let's run around with the carburetor too. We're good to go. Plenty of fuel. Bolt stuck. That should be enough fuel. Definitely needs a carb kit. Alright. Well, here we go. First start since 68. So what's that? I'm not good with the alphabet. 52 years. First start. Got a coil hooked up. No way it just takes off, right? Slingshot engaged. I suppose I should have put those new points in there that are in the box, huh? Sure enough, no spark. Now things are gonna happen for us. So we got spark there. Do we not have fuel in the cylinders? Oh, I suppose because the choke is stuck and I can't get any air, maybe? Why is that stuck? I mean, why wouldn't it be, I guess? Maybe that's why they parked it, because the choke was stuck. How do the plugs look? Are they pretty sooty? I don't remember. It's that stuck plunger right there. It's kind of like a stuck valve. I'll take care of that. So since it works so good on valves, let's see if we can get this plunger to plunge. Don't hit the plastic handle of your pry bars. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Got it. Remember when Craftsman screwdrivers used to be good and made in America? Yeah, me too. Choke. I don't need no stinking choke. I think we're gonna quit for tonight because it looks like the intake is just full of fuel. So we're just gonna let that evaporate a bit. I guess I never showed anybody the bottom of this car, but it is just full of undercoating. Some of it's kind of flaking off here, but the floors are freaking awesome. I mean, that's pretty good. We're up here. Frame's got a little scale on it, but I mean, that's just surface rust. Whoever did the exhaust liked square hardware. I'm guessing that was Mopar. Look at them coilover. Gosh dang shocks right there. Ready to do some NASCAR Baja 1000 type stuff. So for anybody who says, you found that car in a barn, there's no way it sat outside, blah, blah, blah. Look at all that dirt. This thing sat in the dirt up to the leaf springs. Yeah, that's original dirt. Look at that. Third of the way up the diff. We're gonna pull this diff out. I think it's whatever. It's 8 1/4, 7 3/4, 6 and potato, 1964 93 1/2 Mopar differentials. I don't know. But it's got some oddball axles and unattainable brakes. Blah, blah, blah. You can get the brakes from Canter, so on and so forth. But we're going to put a different one in here because it's pretty much a bolt-in. Shock mounts are obviously held on by our U-bolt retaining plate, so that'll be fine. It's supposed to have the same pinion. If it doesn't, we'll just put a joint in it. Brake line, yeah, those don't really scare me. Oh, but I actually looked up that car's application and this car's application. They use the same brake hose. It's a 68 Fury and a 59 Plymouth Suburban use the same brake hose. This has got like the tapered brake drums. That's the hard part to get. And these ones might be okay, but Spring pads mount, or spring width is the same between these cars. I think it's like 46 center to center on the spring pads. And then width is like 53 inches on this one, and I think it's like 52.5 on the other one, inside backing plate, which that dimension means nothing to me. I go wheel mounting surface to wheel mounting surface. That way you're staying consistent. But yeah, just wanted to show you guys the dirt that this car has sat in. It has not been sitting inside. It is a very solid underneath here, but it was sitting in the dirt. Get some wheels pulled off, spray some squirrel piss on some of this hardware. Those shocks are good. Here is the 68 Fury diff that's going in it. Typical Mopar thing is like, let's paint it some obnoxious color. You know why they've had it painted that obnoxious color? Because they had Krager's with some N50 biases and air shocks. I mean, yeah, but it's got big back brakes, 11 by 2 1/4, I think. And then, well, let's verify. Shoot, 11 by 3s. Look at those monsters. Doesn't matter. We're putting a line lock in, you know, because we're just gonna smoke them with that 230 flat 6. We got a set of 410 gears for it, which should be fine with the overdrive, but off the line, she's gonna be wild. Get to do my favorite thing, cut some park brake cables. Going back to the old days, that was like 9 months ago already that made that first video. So let's get that cleaned up, that one out, get after it. Sleeping on the job again. Man, you look comfy in there, real comfy. We took the fancy stop sign pinion snubber off because we're never going to be able to get all that horsepower to the ground anyway, so why even try to harness it? Save that for some really sweet dart or something like that. So here's our two axles laid out side by side. You can see they're both pretty much the same width, and the brake hose is a little bit further over on that one than it is on this one. Hopefully we can make that work. Get a longer hose, or I guess worst case scenario we'll have to make some new brake lines, because you can tell somebody made these. They're custom, real good. You know, you can flare ends on these lines. You don't have to use the length they give you at the parts store. And got our 410 center section slid in there. Got some right stuff, sealed her up real good. And to round up some fine thread hardware, because, yeah, why would you bring me all the hardware? Stick some new wheel cylinders in there. Don't worry, the axle seals, they're not leaking, so we'll just leave those. Ready to wham bam her in there. You can see how much thicker those 3-inch brakes are than, what are they, like 1 3/4 on those? All right, slide her in there. Ooh. I love Chelsea's rear end. Dang! Although the brake hose is the same between a 68 Plymouth Fury and a 59 Plymouth Suburban, the location of that hose is in different spots. You can see here's the original brake lines off the 59, and here's some crappy bent up ones that somebody made for the 68, but it gives a good representation of where they're at. So I mean, they're just about a foot different in location. And I didn't really like the way these were bent up anyway, so I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the lines off of the 59 rear end and we're gonna put them on this 68 rear end. Problem lies is how we retain that son of a gun. So I think what I'm gonna do is I found out it's a 7/16 fine thread bolt that holds it. I'm gonna drill out the differential and tap that out. You could just weld and bolt on there, a nut, and encapsulate it that way, or you could run a hose clamp around it. That's pretty janky. We're kind of janky guys. And then we'll either just plug the old hole for the 68, or we can just thread the breather back in there. But always, when you're working on these breathers, make sure you spin them and make sure that they're loose so that they're breathing, because otherwise it pushes axle and pinion seals out. And then you get a leak. And I'm not going to worry about the shavings that go in there. We might put a little bit of grease on the bit or something, but this thing's got to come apart for axle seals and whatnot anyway. So we'll just pretend like that didn't happen. Or you could weld this hole up too after you get that one drilled out. See how it goes. Maybe drilling will suck and we'll just abandon all hope. So I'm going to put this one up there, get her marked, start drilling. Tech tip of the day, address this stuff when the rear end's laying loose and not when it's underneath the car. It's not going to make it any easier. So we got our 25/64 drill bit, our 7/16 tap. Get yourself a set of these sockets, square sockets that tapped onto your bits. They're good. This one's a number 5, made in USA. I forget where I got these, Amazon something, but way better than that T-handle they give you. Making life easier. Look at this. We got ourselves a brake hose. And then here's where the old breather was. I just got a short 7/16 bolt and a washer. Tighten that up. Conform to the washer to the differential. So hopefully that doesn't leak. If it does, we can weld it up or put some silicone around it. Yeah, those brake lines look way better. Some guys would replace the brake lines. I'm not a big fan of replacing brake lines. It's a bunch of pissing around that doesn't really add up to much. You know, if you're doing a show car, yeah, go for it. But it's not like these things are gonna fail. There might be a little bit of rust in them, but you can blow them out if you're so inclined. And the reason that I moved this instead of just finding a longer hose is this way it's all OG original stuff, original parts. So if you're at the mother-in-law's for the weekend and you blow a hose, you can run up to the parts store and get one instead of getting stuck with her for a week and hearing her say, "I told you you shouldn't have gotten that stupid old car and driven your Prius." So yeah, off-the-shelf parts. Local tiny little parts store up the road had that one on hand because it also fits the 68 and the 59, so I'm guessing they use it for quite a few applications. Yeah, I think we're ready to put a master on it and some drums and pump some brakes. Here we go. So we got our Napa master cylinder in place. Check this out. This is some quality stuff. Brake fluid. Except for its lunch break, instead of oh crap, I want to stop before I go over this embankment brake. Quality with a K right there. Good work, Napa Todd. Let's hope that they're better at machining and manufacturing than they are at proper English spelling and whatnot. I mean, technically, maybe they're just dyslexic and they got the word or the letters all mixed up in there. That's funny. Good stuff. But what I wanted to show you is I got the rear end in, brakes are pretty much done. We're not sure what we're gonna do on the front here. We pretty much destroyed the brakes getting this thing to roll, and we're not ready to put disc brakes on it, which is probably what's gonna happen, and then at that time it'll probably get a dual reservoir master cylinder, because the single reservoir fruit jar style, if you lose one brake in any corner of the car, you lose everything. Or at least with a dual reservoir, you just lose whichever axle you have a failure on. So we're gonna drive it on just rear brakes, because I mean that's better than no brakes. But in order to do that, we gotta block off the front brakes. And how we're gonna do that is take your old fuel line here, and you get yourself a little tack like that, or brad nail, I think the carpenters call them, and then you just slide that in there, and then you tighten her back up. Poor man's line lock. Just don't forget that it's in there. Hopefully it doesn't wedge in there. So we got brakes. That's gonna be good. Well, we got rear brakes. Be cool if we had front brakes so we could do burnouts, but anywho, what I found under the dash. Peterson's or a Pearson's nut roll. 5 cents for a salted nut roll. She's a 1 ouncer. So this was our method of madness for bleeding this one. I got a little Canada Dry ginger ale bottle here that drilled a hole in and snuck a piece of vacuum tubing on. Hook that onto the brake bleeder, crack it open, then go inside and pump it, usually on my hands and knees with my head hanging under the car until I don't see any air coming out inside the bottle, then close her off. Start at the furthest away wheel, which is this side, and then go to the other side since we only had 2 to do. Speaking of Canada, I got a couple of channels I should give a shout out to up in Canada. Coastal Auto, Reaction, The Car Guys. Yeah, that's right. Got it right this time. It's Reaction, not Resurrection. And then The Old Car Guy. That's old with an E and 2 R's in car. And then what's the other one? Sobering Restoration Automotive Services Horsepower Division. Something like that. Sober Horsepower guys up there in Canada. All those guys been giving me shout outs, so I figured I'd return the favor. And then down here in the States, there's Robert's Garage. But he never puts up any new videos. So get after it, Robert. I know you got all kinds of content. Just edit it. Get it out there. He's got some pretty cool stuff, but he just can't find the time to edit. My editor is slacking today. Yeah, you. Now that we got brakes, I suppose we should get some radiator hoses going. Yep, radiators. Okay, we're back. Took a hiatus. Got some radiator hoses, fan belt. I don't know what else we did. Oh yeah, brakes. Put a different rear end in it. Heater hoses. A few odds and ends. Still no fluids in it. Well, there's oil in it. We should check that just to make sure it's full. Good enough. But after filling pretty much the whole intake manifold with fuel last time, I've got about as much faith in that carburetor as I do in the Nigerian princes that seem to be calling my cell phone all the time. I think we're just going to leave the fuel pump off and give her a little shot of the ether bunny here and see what happens. I think it was just flooded out last time. I guess we haven't ripped into a carburetor yet. I don't want to do that. Guess I'd rather do that than paint and body work. What's going on here? Oh, the carburetor kind of freed itself up. Oh, the brake cleaner must have helped. Sure looks like we got an exhaust leak. Oh yeah, it's because we don't have any exhaust. Well, let's just take a look at that carburetor. So I think this is a Carter model BB, but anyway, it's a little one barrel. Should be simple, right? Carburetors and I do not get along. Judging by all the damage to these screw heads, I'm not the first person to go in there.
I'm about to boldly go where many men have gone before.
Well, sprayed some stuff out that kind of looked like the stuff that comes out after taco night, but I guess I didn't see any aha moments, so let's stick it back together and maybe it just fixed itself. Okay, now it's gonna be good. Not too shabby. First time running since 1968. 52 years. Carburetor needs some work. Needs some exhaust. But it runs! Finally! Let's go have a celebratory sandwich, Duff. Keep an eye on that oil pressure gauge, see what we got. When I took the plug out, I noticed we did have oil there, so not the plug, the sensor. They're electric on this one, of all things. Plymouth was fancy. Oh, yeah. 60 PSI at idle. That'll do, pig.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
So it's Christmas Eve day. It's -6 degrees Fahrenheit here, so that's probably like -6 Celsius as well. I don't know. We're Americans. We don't mess with that silly scale that makes sense. But anyway, figured I'd show you what I did to make old Chelsea road ready before we go out and rip. I'm guessing it doesn't have a heater, so we're dressed for warmth. Look at that fuel tank. Figured this thing's too nice to poke a hole through the firewall or the floor, and there wasn't one existing already like on the 60. So got a couple of bungee cords. Even got a red one here, you know, to keep it festive, and it all kind of blends in. It's the same color. Plus, it's kind of got that Moon Eyes hot rod look, you know, straight up dragster. And plus, if we're in a front end collision, I mean, this thing's gonna basically be like her little sister Christine and just go up in a ball of flames. So that's our fuel system. I topped it off with coolant. Well, I didn't top it off. I started dumping coolant in and it runs out almost as fast out of the water pump. So we need a water pump to go with the fuel pump. Got good oil pressure, showed you guys that. But check out the wiring we got going on here. Red, of course, is 12 volts. Yellow is ignition, because that's what I use for all my ignition wire stuff. Well, and then green is crank. Should we You see if I'll start this morning. So you just twisty the yellow and the red together. The amplifier comes on, so you're good to go. Stereo's ready. Fuel gauge isn't coming up. And then you just touch the green. Oh yeah, we gotta hook up the fuel line. But anyway, I'm gonna top it off with coolant. Hook up the fuel pump. I wonder what this did. Must have been for the light bar. Siren, who knows. And then I'll be ready to rip. You wanna go for a ride, Duff? Oh yeah, we love rides, don't we? Okay. All right. Hopefully this thing fires up and we go for a rip. Who am I kidding? It's like 6 below zero. It's not gonna overheat. Look up our fuel pump. Downhill. Oh, snow. Oh my gosh, the blinker switch is like a screw with no head on it, bent at an angle, so you can really hook onto her and jam her down. You're just ready to go, aren't you? That mirror is pretty worthless. What's that whirring? That's new. Oh, went away. Fixed it. Dashing through the snow in a 59 Suburban. Everybody thinks that we are idiots. This drive's gonna go so good I even brought some coffee with. Gotta turn that idle down a bit. Throttle stuck. You would think with these 410s she would just launch off the line, but it really doesn't. Definitely feels like 410s when you have to hit. Oh, I think it's the throw-all bearing. That's what's making the noise. Speedometer works. We're doing 15, so you can do about 10 miles an hour in first gear. 15 if you're really zinger. Oh hey, there's a mirror here. It's just kind of looking, oh, that's terrible. I see why they don't put them on the dash. That's like, just looking at my beard is all you get there. Maybe if you pivot her over here, and then swing her like so, that's a little better. I don't know that the overdrive is going to work with my hot wiring. Find out. I think we gotta just hit 27 miles an hour. Third. There's third. Steps right up there, huh, Duffers? Yeah, no overdrive. That's probably why my gauges don't work. I don't have power going to the right spot. We don't need no stinking overdrive. Whoa! Oh, it handles way better than the 60 though. Might be the fact that it's got 164,000 less miles on it. This thing does have 80. I looked at the pedals. They're like new. They look like Legos, as Zach says. So that means you can't drive it with Crocs on because they would just intertwine and you'd never get your foot off of them. Well, we got the speedo dancing. We're doing between 40 and 60. The accelerator pump even seems like it's working tough. guys, just gushing into the cab. So I was just gonna say the good news is the ear core ain't leaking, but turns out that is too. We could have told you that was gonna happen. Well, we made it home successfully, so I guess it's kind of a success. We haven't even tried reverse yet. Well, here we are. So there you can see all the coolant that's running out of the heater core into the car. There's those sweet pedals that are like Legos. Cheech and Chong would be impressed. Oh, Plymouth, she's baked. Let's see what we got going here. I'm guessing it's just that water pump is shot. Yep. She's steaming. Blue water all over. Rusty water just pouring out of that water pump. Guessing we're gonna need to do some radiator work, flush the block, water pump and such. So there you have it. First ride in 52 years in the 59 Plymouth Suburban, aka Chelsea. Didn't kill us, so it's a little bit better than Christine, but as you can tell, her extreme obesity didn't really go so well on that little jog we took her on, so we're gonna have to get her on a diet, you know, get her one of those Peloton and Phil bike things and such. But yeah, I dig it. It'll be pretty cool. A lot of cooling system issues, some brake issues, fuel pump, carb kit. We got a lot of stuff, but it runs and drives. There you go. Redeem myself for breaking a valve. Did a valve job. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Duff would say thanks too, but he's back looking for birds. Check out my other videos. Check out the other guys I mentioned before. Click like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment down below with what you would do with this thing now. Remember, doesn't matter how you get it done, as long as you're having fun. That was pretty fun. Pretty fun.